Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the holographic display floating above her desk, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of intercepted communications data. The office aboard the research station Meridian hummed quietly around her, but her attention was completely absorbed by the patterns emerging from 3 years of painstaking analysis. Computer, replay audio file
the
designation
computer
Theta
replay
77,
audio file
she
designation
commanded, her voice
Theta
carrying a slight
77.
Spanish accent that became more pronounced when she was concentrating. The speakers crackled to life with the harsh, guttural language of the Korvaxi Empire. Elena had learned enough of their tongue to understand the fear in the warrior's voice as he reported to his commander about a failed raid on a human colony. The Ghost Walker came. The alien soldier rasped, his words trembling with barely contained terror. We had them surrounded. The humans were defenseless. But then he appeared. My entire squad gone in minutes. I only escaped because I ran. I ran, Commander. Me, who has faced the void predators of Nexus Prime without flinching. Elena paused the recording and leaned back in her chair. This was the 43rd mention of the Ghost Walker in intercepted Korvaxi communications over the past 18 months. The 43rd report of entire military units fleeing in panic from a single human being. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, bringing up similar reports from 7 different species. The Thrakari called him Shadow of Death. The silicon-based Exarathi had coined the term the Silence Bringer. Each species had their own name for him, but the pattern was always the same. Brutal raids on human colonies would suddenly turn into desperate retreats when this individual appeared. The door to her office chimed softly. "Come in," Elena called, minimizing her displays. Commander Sarah Chen entered, her crisp naval uniform contrasting with Elena's casual research attire. Chen was Elena's oldest friend from their academy days, and now served as the station's military liaison. "Still working on your ghost story?" Chen asked, settling into the chair across from Elena's desk. "You know, there are people starting to think you've become obsessed with this." Elena bristled slightly. "It's not obsession, Sarah. It's analysis." "Do you have any idea what the psychological implications are here? We have documented evidence of 7 major galactic powers actively avoiding human space because of one individual. One person has essentially created a buffer zone around our colonies through fear alone." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Or it's propaganda. Disinformation designed to make us think we have some kind of super soldier when we don't. I thought that too, initially."
Elena brought up a new display showing star charts marked with red zones.
"But look at this. These are the patrol routes that the Korvaxi Empire has been using for the past year. Notice anything?" Chen studied the hologram, her expression growing more serious. "They're avoiding an entire sector of space. These routes would add weeks to their supply runs." "Exactly. And it's not just the Korvaxi. Every major hostile faction has altered their operational patterns to avoid this region." Elena highlighted a small cluster of stars near the galactic rim. "This area should be prime hunting ground for pirates and raiders. Rich human colonies, light military presence, trade routes full of valuable cargo. Instead, it's been virtually untouched for 2 years. Since when? Since the first reports of the Ghost Walker started appearing."
Elena pulled up another file.
"It began with a Thrakari raid on the agricultural colony of Haven's Rest. Routine attack should have been a slaughter. But then something went wrong for them. Their war chief's personal log, recovered from a damaged ship, describes watching his entire fleet flee from what he calls a single human demon who fought like the void itself had given him form." Chen frowned. "One person can't fight an entire fleet." "That's what I thought. But the pattern repeats, over and over. Slavers hit a mining outpost on Kepler, 442b. They're in the middle of loading human captives when this individual appears. End result, the slavers abandon their ships and cargo, sending out galaxy-wide warnings about the Ghost Walker of the Rim." Elena stood and began pacing, her excitement building as she outlined her research. Pirates attack a merchant convoy near the Veil Nebula. They've disabled 3 cargo ships and are preparing to execute the crews when he shows up. The pirate captain actually broadcasts a surrender message on all frequencies before jumping to hyperspace. "Okay, I'll admit that's unusual," Chen conceded. "But Elena, you're talking about one person standing against fleets, armies, entire military operations. It's not physically possible. Maybe not in the way we traditionally think about combat." Elena returned to her desk and pulled up a new set of files. But what if it's not about superior firepower? What if it's about something else entirely? She activated a recording from a captured Zerathi data core. The mechanical voice of the silicon-based alien filled the room, speaking in perfectly modulated tones that nonetheless carried an unmistakable undercurrent of fear. Designation: Emergency Protocol 7. All units are to avoid Terran Colonial Sector 12. Probability of encountering the Silence Bringer: unacceptable. This entity demonstrates capabilities that violate our understanding of biological limitations. Recommendation: permanent withdrawal from all operations within 50 light-years of human settlements in designated region. Chen's expression shifted from skepticism to genuine concern. The Zerathi don't scare easily. They're machines, essentially. They calculate risk and probability with mathematical precision. Exactly. And they've calculated that whatever this human is doing poses an unacceptable risk to their operations.
Elena brought up another display showing psychological profiles.
I've been analyzing the behavioral patterns of every species that's encountered him. The Korvaxi are pack hunters who respect only strength. The Thrakari worship death in battle. The Zerathi are logical to a fault. Yet all of them, despite their vastly different psychologies, react the same way to this individual. Terror. Not just terror, existential dread. The kind of fear that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the universe. Elena sat down, her expression growing more intense. Sarah, I think this person represents something that these species have never encountered before. Something uniquely human. Chen was quiet for a long moment, studying the data displays. Have you been able to identify him? Any clue who this ghost walker actually is? Elena's excitement dimmed slightly. That's the problem. I have 47 separate incidents attributed to him across a space spanning nearly 100 light years. The timeline doesn't work for a single individual using conventional travel methods. Either he has access to technology far beyond anything we've developed, or what? Or, there's something about this situation I'm completely missing. Elena rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of 3 years of research pressing down on her. The communication intercepts refer to him as if he's a single entity. The fear response is consistent across all encounters. But the logistics are impossible. A soft chime from Elena's computer interrupted them. A new message had arrived through the research station's priority communication array. Dr. Vasquez, Elena read aloud, your presence is requested aboard the UES Defiance for consultation on a matter of colonial security. Transport departs in 6 hours. Admiral Morrison. Chen's eyes widened. Morrison? Elena, that's the head of Colonial Defense Command. They don't call in xenopsychologists unless something big is happening. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. You think it's connected to my research? Has to be. The timing's too convenient. Chen stood up. Elena, if they're bringing you in officially, it means whatever's happening with your ghost walker has escalated beyond academic interest. As if summoned by their conversation, Elena's communication array chimed again. This time, it was an automated alert from the galaxy-wide information network. Her blood ran cold as she read the headline scrolling across her screen. Major Korvaxi fleet movement detected near human colonial space. Admiral Zektar personally leading 3 battle groups toward Outer Rim settlements. Elena's hands flew over her controls, pulling up real-time intelligence reports. The Korvaxi Empire was mobilizing a force larger than anything they'd deployed in decades. 3 full battle groups, over 1,000 ships, all converging on the same region of space where the Ghost Walker had been most active. They're not running anymore, Elena whispered, her voice barely audible. They're coming in force. Chen moved behind Elena's chair, reading the reports over her shoulder. Look at the fleet composition. This isn't a raiding force. These are seed ships, planet crackers, full invasion assets. They're planning to glass entire worlds. Elena's mind raced as she cross-referenced the Korvaxi fleet's projected course with her research data. They're heading straight for Haven's Rest, the first colony where the Ghost Walker appeared. Maybe they think overwhelming force will be enough this time. No, Elena said slowly, pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to fall into place. This is personal. Look at the fleet designation. She highlighted a section of the intelligence report. This is Admiral Zektar's personal armada. He's the one who lost an entire raiding fleet to the Ghost Walker 2 years ago, the one whose warriors refused to speak of what they saw. Chen felt the gravity of the situation settling over them. He's going back for revenge. Not just revenge. Validation. He needs to prove that what happened was a fluke, that no single human could possibly be responsible for the humiliation his forces suffered. Elena began saving her research files to portable storage units. But Sarah, If I'm right about the psychological impact this individual has on hostile species, what Zektar is walking into isn't a battle. What is it, then? Alina looked up from her work, her eyes reflecting a mixture of anticipation and dread. A demonstration. And everyone in the galaxy is about to learn why some names are spoken only in whispers. The transport to the UES Defiance couldn't come fast enough. For 3 years, Elena had studied the legend of the Ghost Walker from the safety of her research station, analyzing data and building theories. But now she was going to be thrust into the heart of the story itself. As she packed her research materials, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to discover something that would fundamentally change humanity's understanding of itself.
The alien species of the galaxy had learned to fear one human being.
Soon she would learn why. And in the depths of space, a Korvaxi admiral prepared his greatest fleet for what he believed would be the final confrontation with the terror that had haunted his nightmares for 2 years. Neither Elena nor Admiral Zektar realized that they were about to become part of a legend that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. The Ghost Walker was waiting, and the universe was about to remember why humanity had earned its place among the stars through more than just technology and determination. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon in existence was the simple human refusal to let innocent people suffer while you had the power to stop it. The UES Defiance was a fortress among the stars, its massive bulk bristling with defensive systems and command arrays that coordinated colonial defense forces across 3 sectors. As Elena's shuttle approached the docking bay, she could see the organized chaos of a military preparing for war. Fighter squadrons launched and returned in precise formations, supply ships queued for loading, and the communication arrays glowed with constant activity. Admiral Rebecca Morrison was not what Elena had expected. Rather than the grizzled veteran she'd imagined, Morrison appeared to be in her 40s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a regulation bun and sharp green eyes that seemed to miss nothing. She greeted Elena in a briefing room that overlooked the ship's massive tactical display. "Doctor!" "Vasquez, thank you for coming. I know this was short notice." Morrison's voice carried the crisp authority of someone accustomed to making life-and-death decisions. "I've been reading your research on enemy psychological warfare patterns. Fascinating work." "Thank you, Admiral. Though I have to admit, I'm curious why Colonial Defense is interested in academic xenopsychology research." Morrison activated the room's main display, showing a 3-dimensional map of the Outer Rim colonies. Red indicators marked Korvaxi fleet positions advancing toward human space. "Because, Doctor, your academic research has just become our most critical intelligence asset." Elena studied the tactical display. "The Korvaxi fleet movements. You think they're connected to my research on the Ghost Walker?" "I don't think, Doctor. I know." Morrison pulled up a series of intercepted communications. "These are from Admiral Zektar's personal command ship. Computer, translate and display." The harsh Korvaxi language filled the room, followed by the computer's translation in calm, measured tones. "This humiliation will not stand. The so-called Ghost Walker has made cowards of warriors who have conquered star systems. We will end this deception and remind the galaxy that the Korvaxi Empire bows to no single being, human or otherwise." Elena felt her pulse quicken. He's taking this personally. More than that. "Our intelligence suggests Zektar has staked his entire reputation on this campaign. If he fails to eliminate or capture the Ghost Walker, he'll likely face execution by his own people for incompetence." Morrison moved to another display. "Which brings us to the problem." "What problem? We have no idea who the Ghost Walker actually is." Elena blinked in surprise. "I'm sorry?" Morrison's expression grew grim. "Doctor Vasquez, in all our files, databases, and personnel records, we have no individual who matches the operational profile you've documented. No Special Forces operative, no enhanced soldier, no Black Ops agent who could possibly be responsible for the incidents you've catalogued." The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. "That's impossible. The encounters are documented. The enemy communications are real." "Oh, the encounters definitely happened. But according to our records, there's no one in Colonial Defense, Merchant Marine, or civilian sectors who could be doing what witnesses describe." Morrison brought up personnel files. "We've cross-referenced every human in the Outer Rim territories. Scientists, farmers, miners, security personnel, ship crews, none of them have the training or equipment that would explain the Ghost Walker's capabilities." Elena's mind raced through possibilities. What about special operations? Black projects? That was my first thought. But I have access to every classified operation in human space. There are no ghost programs, no enhanced soldier initiatives, nothing that would create someone capable of what you've documented. Morrison paused, which leads to some disturbing possibilities, such as either someone is using technology so advanced that our own military doesn't know about it, or, Morrison hesitated, or the individual responsible isn't part of any official human organization. Elena felt a chill of realization. A civilian. A civilian with capabilities that defy explanation. Morrison activated another display showing a timeline of incidents. Dr. Vasquez, I need you to understand what we're dealing with here. In 36 hours, the largest Korvaxi fleet in living memory will reach Haven's Rest. They're coming to face whatever they believe the Ghostwalker represents. And if the Ghostwalker doesn't appear, then Zektar will take his frustration out on every human settlement in the region. Our intelligence suggests he's prepared to make examples of entire colonies if he doesn't get the confrontation he's looking for. Elena studied the tactical display, feeling the weight of impossible responsibility. How many people are we talking about? Haven's Rest has a population of 40,000. There are 6 other colonies in the immediate area with a combined population of nearly 200,000. Morrison's voice remained steady, but Elena could hear the tension underneath. And that's just the beginning. If Zektar succeeds here, it will encourage every hostile faction in the galaxy to test us. What do you need from me? I need you to find him. Morrison turned to face Elena directly. In 36 hours, you're going to be aboard a fast courier ship heading for Haven's Rest. Your mission is to locate the Ghostwalker and convince him to either stand down or coordinate with our forces. Elena's academic world suddenly felt very far away. Admiral, I'm a researcher, not a field operative. Right now, you're the only expert we have on this individual's psychological profile and operational patterns. More importantly, you might be the only person who can approach him without triggering a hostile response. What makes you think that? Morrison activated one more display, this one showing a detailed analysis of the Ghostwalker's recorded actions. Look at the pattern of his interventions. Every single one has been in defense of civilians under attack. No preemptive strikes, no offensive operations, no collateral damage to non-combatants. Whoever this person is, they have a very specific moral code. Elena examined the data, seeing the pattern with new eyes. He only acts when innocent people are in immediate danger.
Exactly.
Which means if you approach him openly, as a researcher seeking to understand rather than a threat to be eliminated, you might be the first person to actually have a conversation with him.
The magnitude of what Morrison was asking began to sink in.
You're sending me to make first contact with someone who has apparently spent 2 years avoiding all contact with human authorities. I'm sending you to prevent a massacre. If Zektar doesn't find the Ghostwalker, he'll create a situation where innocent people are threatened, hoping to draw him out. And if that happens, Elena finished the thought. The Ghostwalker will have no choice but to respond. Against 3 full battle groups. Even if he's as capable as the reports suggest, those aren't favorable odds. Elena was quiet for a long moment, absorbing the full implications. Admiral, there's something else to consider. If my analysis is correct, the Ghostwalker's effectiveness isn't just about personal combat capability. It's about psychological impact. He's become a symbol that represents something these alien species genuinely fear, which is the idea that humans won't abandon each other, that we'll fight to protect innocence regardless of the odds or personal cost. Elena began pacing as her thoughts crystallized. Most galactic species have hierarchical societies where the powerful prey on the weak as a matter of course. The concept of someone with significant power using it purely to protect those who can't protect themselves, it's alien to them in the most literal sense.
Morrison nodded slowly.
So he's not just fighting them, he's challenging their entire worldview. And winning. Every time he appears, he proves that their basic assumptions about how power works in the universe are wrong. That's why they're so terrified of him. It also explains why Zektar is so determined to destroy him. This isn't just about military victory anymore. It's about validating the Korvaxi understanding of how the universe works. Elena realized the true scope of what was happening. This confrontation isn't just about one system or one colony. Whoever wins will define the relationship between humans and every other species in the galaxy for generations to come. A communication alert chimed through the briefing room. Morrison answered, and Elena could hear the tension in the voice on the other end. Admiral, we're getting reports from our deep space monitoring stations. The Korvaxi fleet has accelerated their approach. New estimated arrival time, 18 hours. Morrison's expression darkened. Understood. Continue monitoring. She turned to Elena. Doctor, I'm afraid your timeline just got cut in half. Your transport leaves in 2 hours. Elena felt her heart racing. Admiral, what if I can't find him? What if he doesn't want to be found? Then we'll have to hope our conventional forces can hold the line long enough for the evacuation fleets to get the colonists to safety.
Morrison's voice carried no illusion about their chances.
Dr. Vasquez, I won't lie to you. This is likely a suicide mission, but you're also our only hope of preventing a war that could consume the entire Outer Rim. As Elena left the briefing room to prepare for departure, her mind churned with questions. Who was the Ghost Walker? How had one person become powerful enough to alter the behavior patterns of entire galactic civilizations? And most importantly, would she be able to find him in time to prevent the catastrophe that was rapidly approaching? The courier ship Swift Current was already prepped for departure when Elena arrived at the docking bay. Captain Torres, a weathered veteran of the Merchant Marine, greeted her with a mixture of respect and concern. Dr. Vasquez, I'm told you need to get to Haven's Rest faster than should be physically possible. That's about right, Captain. Torres gestured toward his ship, a sleek vessel designed for speed rather than comfort. Well, the Swift Current has some modifications that aren't exactly regulation. We'll get you there with time to spare, assuming we don't run into any Korvaxi advance scouts. As Elena boarded the ship, she caught her last glimpse of the UES Defiance through the porthole. The massive warship was already changing course, leading what looked like the entire colonial defense fleet toward the Outer Rim. Everyone was gambling everything on the hope that she could find one person in a star system under threat of annihilation. The Swift Current engaged its engines and shot away from the fleet, racing toward a confrontation that would determine the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. Elena spent the journey reviewing everything she knew about the Ghost Walker, preparing for what might be the most important conversation in human history. Behind them, Admiral Morrison watched the tactical display as reports continued to flow in. The Korvaxi fleet was massive, disciplined, and led by an admiral with everything to prove. In less than 18 hours, they would arrive at Haven's Rest, expecting to face their greatest fear. Elena was racing to find that fear before it became everyone's nightmare. Haven's Rest appeared on the Swift Current's main view screen like a blue-green jewel against the star-filled void. The agricultural colony sprawled across 2 continents of the planet's main landmass, with geometric patterns of farmland visible even from orbit. It looked peaceful, innocent, completely unaware that the largest military force in Korvaxi history was bearing down on it. Captain Torres maneuvered his ship into a standard approach vector while Elena studied sensor readings from the planet below. Population centers are concentrated in 7 major settlements, she murmured, analyzing the data. Mostly agricultural communities, some light manufacturing, no significant military installations. Perfect target for what the Korvaxi like to do, Torres replied grimly. Helpless civilians, valuable infrastructure, and isolated enough that help can't arrive quickly. He paused as a new sensor reading caught his attention. That's odd. What? There's a ship in orbit. Small, single-person craft. Configuration doesn't match anything in the colonial database. Torres enhanced the sensor display. It's positioned directly between us and the planet, but it's not responding to communication attempts. Elena felt her pulse quicken. Can you get a closer look? Torres adjusted their approach, bringing the mysterious vessel into visual range. What they saw defied easy categorization. The ship was sleek but functional, clearly built for speed and maneuverability. Its hull was a matte black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and there were no visible identifying markings or registry numbers. I've never seen a design like that, Torres said. It's not standard colonial, not merchant marine, not even black ops. But the technology, he ran detailed scans. The energy readings are incredible. This thing has more power than some destroyers. Elena stared at the mystery ship, her researcher's instincts screaming that she was looking at something significant.
Captain, can you patch me into the communication system? I want to try something. Go ahead, Doctor.
Elena activated the comm system, her voice carrying across the void toward the silent ship.
Unknown vessel, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez aboard the courier ship Swift Current. I'm a xenopsychologist with the Colonial Research Division. I believe we need to talk. Silence stretched for nearly a full minute. Then, without warning, the mystery ship's engines flared to life. But instead of fleeing, it began a slow approach toward the Swift Current. Doctor, Torres said nervously. That ship could vaporize us without breaking a sweat. Are you sure about this?
No, Elena admitted.
But I think we just made contact with the Ghost Walker. The black ship drew alongside them with a precision that spoke of exceptional piloting skill. Close up, Elena could see details that made her breath catch. The hull wasn't just dark. It seemed to bend light around itself in ways that should have been impossible with known technology. But more importantly, through the ship's cockpit canopy, she could see the silhouette of a single human figure. Torres's communication system chimed with an incoming message. The voice that emerged was calm, measured, and unmistakably human. Dr. Vasquez. I've been monitoring colonial communications. You've been researching me. Elena felt a thrill of academic excitement mixed with genuine fear. Yes, for 3 years. I'm trying to understand the psychological impact you've had on hostile alien species. And now you're here because a Korvaxi fleet is approaching. Admiral Zektar is bringing 3 battle groups. They'll be here in less than 12 hours. Elena chose her words carefully. He's coming for you specifically. A long pause. I know. Then you also know what will happen to the colonists if he doesn't find what he's looking for. Yes. The single word carried a weight of resignation that made Elena's heart ache. Can we meet face to face? I think there are things you need to know about the larger situation. Another pause, longer this time. Follow me down. There's a clearing 15 kilometers north of the main settlement. Land there. The black ship peeled away from the swift current and began a rapid descent toward the planet's surface. Torres looked at Elena with undisguised concern. Doctor, are you absolutely sure about this? Captain, that person down there has spent 2 years protecting innocent people at significant personal risk. If he wanted to hurt us, we'd already be dead. Elena strapped herself in for atmospheric entry. Besides, he's our only hope of preventing what's coming. The landing site was exactly as described, a natural clearing in the planet's equivalent of a temperate forest. The black ship had already touched down and powered down its systems by the time the swift current settled onto the grass nearby. Elena gathered her research materials and prepared to meet the most significant subject of her career. The figure who emerged from the black ship was not what she had expected. Average height, maybe slightly below, with brown hair and a beard that suggested someone who spent more time worrying about survival than appearance. He wore simple civilian clothing, dark pants, a worn jacket, and boots that had seen significant use. If Elena had passed him on the street of any human colony, she would never have given him a second glance. But his eyes told a different story. They held a depth of experience and a weariness that spoke of someone who had seen too much and carried too much responsibility. When he looked at her, Elena felt as though he was assessing not just her intentions, but her entire character in a single glance. Dr. Elena Vasquez, he said, extending a hand. I'm Marcus Chen. Elena shook his hand, noting the calluses and the strength in his grip. Marcus Chen. Not exactly the name that strikes terror into galactic civilizations. A small smile played at the corners of his mouth. Names have power, Doctor. The name Marcus Chen belongs to a man who wants nothing more than to be left alone to live peacefully. The name Ghost Walker belongs to something else entirely. And what is that? Marcus gestured toward a fallen log that served as an impromptu bench. The promise that innocent people will never be abandoned as long as I have the power to protect them. They sat down, and Elena activated her recording device. Marcus, I need to understand what's really happening here. My research shows impossible operational capabilities, technology beyond anything in our databases, psychological impacts that defy conventional analysis. How is one person doing what you've accomplished? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring up at the sky where the Korvaxi fleet was approaching. How much do you know about the colony ship New Horizon, Doctor? Elena searched her memory. It was lost 15 years ago. Equipment failure during a routine colonization mission. All hands presumed dead. Not all hands. Marcus's voice carried old pain. I was the ship's engineer. When the quantum drive failed, it didn't just kill the ship. It changed things, changed me. How? The quantum cascade that destroyed the New Horizon didn't kill me, but it didn't leave me unchanged either. I exist somewhat outside normal space-time now. I can move between locations without traditional travel, phase through matter when necessary, and I have access to technologies that exist in quantum flux around me. Elena felt her scientific worldview expanding to accommodate new possibilities.
You're talking about quantum phasing.
Theoretical physics suggested it was possible, but the energy requirements are met by the quantum field that I exist partially within. Marcus stood up and walked a few steps away. Watch. Elena blinked, and Marcus was gone.
Not disappeared, gone, as if he had never been there at all. Then, between one heartbeat and the next, he was standing behind her.
The aliens you've studied call me the Ghost Walker because, from their perspective, I appear and vanish like a spirit. They can't track me with conventional senses because I'm not entirely in normal space. They can't predict my movements because I'm not limited by conventional physics. Elena's mind raced with the implications.
But you're still human.
Yes. And that's what terrifies them. Marcus sat back down, his expression growing more serious. Dr. Vasquez, I want you to understand something. Every time I use these abilities, every time I phase between quantum states, it takes something out of me. I'm not immortal, and I'm not invincible.
I'm a man with extraordinary capabilities and an ordinary human conscience, which means you can't abandon people who need help.
Exactly.
When I see slavers loading human captives, when I watch pirates preparing to execute merchant crews, when raiders target defenseless colonies, I can't walk away. My abilities make it possible for me to help, which means I'm morally obligated to help. Elena began to understand the psychological patterns she'd observed, and each time you intervene, you become more of a legend to the species you're fighting. The irony is that my effectiveness comes not from being stronger than them, but from being different from them. They understand power used for conquest, for domination, for personal gain. They don't understand power used purely for protection of others, because that concept is fundamentally alien to their psychological framework. Precisely. And now Admiral Zektar is coming here to destroy that concept, to prove that their understanding of power is correct. Elena felt the weight of the approaching crisis. Marcus, you can't face 3 battle groups alone. Even with your abilities, the numbers are impossible. I know. Marcus looked up at the sky again, where the first traces of engine glow were becoming visible. But I also can't let him massacre 40,000 innocent people to draw me out. There has to be another way. Marcus turned to her, and Elena saw something in his expression that chilled her. Doctor, there is another way, but it requires me to do something I've never done before. What? Stop hiding. Stop being the Ghost Walker and start being something that will end this threat permanently. Elena felt a sense of foreboding. What are you talking about? Marcus stood up and walked to his ship. I've spent 2 years operating in the shadows, helping where I could while avoiding the larger conflict. But Zektar's fleet represents an escalation that threatens every human colony in this region. If I don't end this threat here, it will only grow larger. Marcus, what are you planning? He turned back to her, and Elena saw the transformation beginning. The weary man she had been talking to was being replaced by something harder, more determined. I'm going to teach the galaxy what happens when you threaten human civilians under my protection. That sounds like you're planning to fight them directly.
No, Doctor. I'm planning to end them.
Completely. In a way that will ensure no other hostile species ever considers targeting human colonies again. Marcus began walking back towards his ship. The Ghost Walker operated in the shadows and saved individual groups. What's coming next will operate in full view of the galaxy and save entire civilizations. Elena felt panic rising. Marcus, you're talking about massacre. That's not protection, that's revenge. He stopped and looked back at her. Dr. Vasquez, sometimes the only way to protect innocence is to become the thing the predators fear more than death itself. The engine glow in the sky was getting brighter. Admiral Zektar's fleet was approaching, and Elena realized she was about to witness the birth of a legend that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The question was whether humanity would be proud of what Marcus Chen was about to become. Elena watched in growing alarm as Marcus walked toward his ship with the determined stride of someone who had made an irreversible decision. Marcus, wait. You don't understand the broader implications of what you're planning. He paused, his hand on the ship's entry hatch. Explain. Elena grabbed her research materials and hurried after him. For 3 years, I've studied how different species react to you. The fear you inspire isn't just about individual combat capability, it's about challenging their fundamental beliefs about how power works in the universe. I know that. But do you understand what happens if you escalate to direct confrontation? Elena activated her datapad, pulling up psychological profiles. The Korvaxi Empire isn't just another hostile species. They're the apex predators of this galaxy's political structure. If you destroy Zektar's fleet in a direct confrontation, you won't just defeat them. You'll shatter their entire cultural identity. Marcus's expression remained unmoved. Good. No, not good. Elena's voice rose with urgency. Marcus, if you completely humiliate the Korvaxi Empire, you'll trigger a response from every other major power in the galaxy. They'll unite against humanity not because they want to conquer us, but because our very existence threatens their understanding of reality. For the first time since their conversation began, Marcus seemed to hesitate. What do you mean? Elena pulled up galactic political maps. The current balance of power depends on the idea that might makes right, that the strong naturally dominate the weak. You've already challenged that by protecting human colonies. But if you single-handedly destroy the most powerful military force in known space, they'll see humans as an existential threat to the entire galactic order. Marcus finished. Exactly. And existential threats get eliminated by any means necessary. Elena stepped closer, her voice intense with conviction. Marcus, you could win this battle and lose humanity's future. Every species in the galaxy would consider us a threat that had to be destroyed. Marcus leaned against his ship, the weight of Elena's words clearly affecting him. So what do you suggest? Let Zektar massacre innocent colonists to prove his point? I suggest we find a third option. Elena activated her communication device. Captain Torres, are you monitoring Korvaxi fleet communications? Torres's voice crackled through the speaker. Yes, Doctor. They're maintaining radio silence, but their formation suggests they're planning to surround the planet and issue demands. Elena turned back to Marcus. What if we don't give them what they expect? What if instead of hiding or confronting them, we do something completely different? Such as, we tell them the truth. Marcus stared at her. You want to reveal classified information about quantum cascade effects to a hostile alien fleet? I want to reveal the truth about who you are and why you do what you do. Elena began pacing as her thoughts crystallized.
Marcus, the reason you terrify them isn't your abilities.
It's your motivations. They can't understand why someone with godlike power would use it purely to protect others. So we make them understand. We show them that you're not a threat to their empire. You're an immune response to threats against innocence. Marcus shook his head. Elena, these are the same species that practice slavery, genocide, and systematic oppression. They're not going to suddenly develop consciences because I explain my motivations. Maybe not. But they might develop a healthy sense of self-preservation. Elena activated her datapad's projection system, creating a three-dimensional display of galactic political structures. Look at this. Every major empire in the galaxy practices some form of predation on weaker species. The Korvaxi enslave agricultural worlds. The Thakari harvest sentient beings for their death rituals. The Zerathi convert entire populations into mechanical drones. Your point? My point is that you've been functioning as a natural predator control mechanism. You only appear when they threaten innocent humans, but your mere existence creates uncertainty about when you might appear to protect other species. Marcus studied the display with growing understanding. You're saying I've accidentally created a galaxy-wide deterrent effect? Exactly. Pirates think twice about raiding trade routes because they know the Ghost Walker might appear. Slavers avoid human space because they can't predict when they'll encounter you. You've created a zone of protection that extends far beyond just human colonies. But Zektar is challenging that deterrent, which gives us an opportunity. Elena highlighted communication frequencies on her display. What if we broadcast a message to the entire galaxy? Not a threat, not a challenge, but an explanation. Let every species know exactly what triggers your intervention. Marcus considered this. A public declaration of principles. More than that, a social contract. You make it clear that you don't threaten anyone who doesn't threaten innocence. But you also make it clear that anyone who does threaten innocence will face consequences that they can't escape or overcome. Elena could see Marcus weighing the possibilities. It could work, he admitted. Instead of leaving them to imagine worst-case scenarios about human capabilities, I'd be giving them a clear understanding of cause and effect, and it would put the choice entirely in their hands. Species that want to coexist peacefully have nothing to fear from you. Species that insist on predatory behavior know exactly what they're risking. Marcus pushed away from his ship and began walking back toward the clearing where they'd been sitting. But there's still the immediate problem of Zektar's fleet. Even if we broadcast such a message, he's already committed to this confrontation. Then we make the message part of the confrontation. Elena followed him, her excitement building. We don't just broadcast to the galaxy, we broadcast directly to his fleet. We make them understand exactly what they're facing and why. And if they attack anyway? Elena met his eyes steadily. Then you stop them. But you do it in a way that demonstrates protection rather than aggression. You make it clear that you're not attacking the Korvaxi Empire, you're defending human civilians. Marcus was quiet for several minutes, staring up at the sky, where the Korvaxi fleet was now visible as bright points of light approaching the system's outer edge. It's risky. If this goes wrong, it could trigger exactly the kind of galactic response you're worried about. If we don't try, Zektar will either massacre innocent colonists or force you into the kind of direct confrontation that leads to the same result. Suddenly, Captain Torres's voice crackled urgently through Elena's communication device. Doctor, you need to hear this. The Korvaxi are broadcasting a message to the planet. Elena activated her device. A harsh, guttural voice filled the clearing, speaking in heavily accented human standard. Humans of Haven's Rest. I am Admiral Zektar of the Korvaxi Empire. You harbor a criminal who has brought shame upon Korvaxi warriors across the galaxy. Surrender the one you call the Ghost Walker, or we will demonstrate why our empire has conquered star systems for 3,000 years. The message continued. You have 6 hours to comply. If the Ghost Walker does not present himself for justice, we will begin orbital bombardment of your settlements. Every death that follows will be on his conscience. Elena felt cold dread settling in her stomach. He's forcing the choice. Marcus's expression had hardened again. 6 hours. That's not enough time to evacuate 40,000 people, but it might be enough time to implement our plan. Elena pulled up communication protocols on her datapad. Marcus, can your ship access galactic communication networks? Yes. Why? Because we're going to do something that no one in galactic history has ever done. We're going to have a public conversation with the apex predator of known space. Marcus looked at her with something approaching admiration. You want to debate philosophy with a Korvaxi admiral while his fleet threatens to destroy a planet? I want to explain to every species in the galaxy why protecting innocence is worth any price. Elena began setting up her recording equipment. And I want to give Zektar one chance to understand what he's really challenging. Marcus nodded slowly. And if he doesn't take that chance, then the galaxy learns what happens when someone threatens people under your protection. As they prepared to broadcast what might be the most important message in galactic history, neither Elena nor Marcus fully grasped that they were about to fundamentally alter the relationship between every sentient species in known space. The Ghost Walker had operated in shadows and legend. What was about to emerge would operate in full view of the galaxy and change the course of civilization itself. Above them, Admiral Zektar's fleet moved into attack formation, confident that they faced a single individual with delusions of grandeur. They had no idea that they were about to encounter something far more dangerous than any weapon or warrior. They were about to face the full weight of human moral conviction backed by power that could reshape reality itself. The galaxy was about to learn why some promises, once made, could never be broken. Marcus's ship hummed with power as they activated its advanced communication array. Elena checked her recording equipment one final time while Marcus interfaced with galactic communication networks that most civilizations didn't even know existed. Within minutes, they had established a connection that would broadcast simultaneously to Admiral Zektar's fleet, every major government in known space, and the general communication networks that connected trillions of sentient beings across the galaxy. Are you ready for this? Marcus asked, his hand hovering over the transmission controls. Elena took a deep breath, as ready as anyone can be to potentially change the course of galactic civilization. Marcus activated the transmission. Elena looked into the recording device and began to speak. My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez, xenopsychologist with the Human Colonial Research Division. I am broadcasting from Haven's Rest, where 40,000 innocent human civilians are currently threatened by Admiral Zektar's fleet. For 3 years, I have studied the psychological impact of the individual known across the galaxy as the Ghost Walker. Today, for the first time, I want to introduce you to the man behind the legend. She gestured to Marcus, who stepped into the recording field. To Elena's surprise, he had changed during their preparation. Gone was the worn civilian clothing, replaced by a simple black uniform that seemed to bend light around its edges. When he spoke, his voice carried a quiet authority that commanded attention. I am Marcus Chen, formerly an engineer aboard the colony ship New Horizon. 15 years ago, a quantum cascade accident killed my ship and everyone aboard except me. I was left changed, existing partially outside normal space-time, with abilities that allow me to travel instantly across vast distances and interact with matter in ways that conventional physics cannot explain. Elena watched the recording, noting how Marcus's presence seemed to fill the frame despite his average physical appearance. There was something about the way he carried himself now that spoke of absolute confidence and unshakable purpose. For 13 years after the accident, I used these abilities to help where I could, while avoiding larger conflicts. But 2 years ago, I witnessed a Thrakari raiding fleet preparing to harvest the population of Haven's Rest for their death rituals. 40,000 innocent people, including children, were about to be murdered in the name of alien religious practices. Marcus paused, and Elena could see old pain and determination warring in his expression. I made a decision that day. I decided that no innocent person would die while I had the power to prevent it. Since then, I have intervened in 47 separate incidents involving threats to civilian populations. I have never initiated hostilities. I have never attacked anyone who is not actively threatening innocent life. But I have never, ever allowed innocent people to be harmed while I had the power to stop it. Elena stepped back into the frame. The psychological reports I've compiled over 3 years confirm something remarkable. Every species that has encountered Marcus reacts with the same fundamental terror. Not fear of his abilities, but fear of what those abilities represent. She activated a holographic display showing her research data. The Korvaxi Empire, like most galactic powers, operates on the principle that might makes right. They believe that superior force grants the right to dominate inferior forces. This principle underlies their entire social structure, their government, their military doctrine, and their expansion policies. But Marcus represents something they have never encountered before, Elena continued. Superior force used purely to protect the powerless. No territorial ambitions, no resource extraction, no political dominance, just an absolute refusal to allow innocent suffering. Marcus stepped forward again. Admiral Zektar, you came here believing that the Ghost Walker was a threat to your empire. You were correct, but not in the way you think. I am not a threat to your ships, your worlds, or your people. I am a threat to your right to prey upon those who cannot defend themselves. Elena could almost feel the tension radiating from the Korvaxi fleet in orbit as Marcus continued. Every species listening to this transmission needs to understand something. I do not threaten anyone who does not threaten innocence. I have no interest in conquest, no desire for power over others, no ambition beyond protecting those who cannot protect themselves. But that protection is absolute and non-negotiable. Elena activated another display showing galactic political structures. What Marcus is offering the galaxy is not submission to human dominance, he's offering a social contract. Species that choose to coexist peacefully have nothing to fear from him. Species that insist on predatory behavior against civilian populations will face consequences that they cannot escape or overcome. The choice, Marcus said, looking directly into the recording device, is entirely yours. Suddenly, Captain Torres's voice crackled through Elena's communication device. Doctor, the Korvaxi fleet is responding. Admiral Zektar's harsh voice filled the clearing. Human Chen! Your words change nothing. The Korvaxi Empire bows to no alien threats. You will surrender yourself for judgment, or we will demonstrate what happens to worlds that harbor criminals. Elena felt her heart sinking, but Marcus's expression remained calm. Admiral, Marcus replied, you misunderstand the situation. I'm not asking the Korvaxi Empire to bow to anything. I'm explaining the natural consequences of your choices. You can withdraw your fleet and return to your territory, where you can continue your practices without threatening human civilians. Or, you can continue with your current course of action. And if we continue, then you will face the full weight of humanity's refusal to abandon innocent people. Elena watched the exchange with growing tension. Marcus, she whispered, he's not backing down. I know, Marcus replied quietly, then louder. Admiral Zektar, I want to make something clear to you and every species listening to this transmission. What happens next is not revenge. It's not conquest. It's not even punishment. It's simple cause and effect. Marcus walked away from the recording device towards his ship. As he moved, Elena noticed something extraordinary happening. The air around him began to shimmer, and she could see quantum distortions rippling outward from his position. You see, Admiral, the quantum cascade that changed me didn't just give me the ability to phase between locations. It gave me access to technologies and capabilities that exist in quantum flux throughout the universe. Elena's instruments began registering energy readings that defied comprehension. Marcus's ship was beginning to glow with an inner light that hurt to look at directly. For 2 years, I've used these abilities sparingly, limiting myself to what was necessary to protect specific groups of people. But you've forced a different choice. Elena realized what was happening and felt both terror and awe. Marcus, what are you doing? I'm teaching the galaxy what protection really means. Marcus raised his hand, and Elena watched as quantum energy began flowing around him like visible lightning. Above them, she could see Admiral Zektar's fleet beginning to maneuver into attack formation. Admiral, last chance. Withdraw your fleet. Zektar's response was immediate. All ships begin orbital bombardment. Target the civilian settlements. Elena watched in horror as massive energy beams began lancing down from the Korvaxi ships toward the planet's surface. But before they could reach their targets, Marcus acted. He didn't disappear this time. Instead, he seemed to expand, his form becoming translucent as quantum energy flowed through him. Elena watched as he reached out with his consciousness and simply stopped the bombardment beams in mid-air, their energy dissipating harmlessly into quantum flux. "No," Marcus said, his voice now carrying harmonics that resonated through multiple dimensions. "Not while I exist. What happened next would be debated by physicists and philosophers for centuries." Marcus reached across space itself and began systematically dismantling Admiral Zektar's fleet. Not destroying the ships, dismantling them. Elena watched on her sensors as massive warships simply came apart at the quantum level, their component atoms peacefully separating and dispersing into space. The crew members aboard those ships found themselves teleported to the fleet's support vessels, unharmed but profoundly shaken. In less than 10 minutes, 3 entire Korvaxi battle groups had been reduced to a handful of support ships and 40,000 very frightened alien soldiers. Marcus's voice carried across the galaxy. "Admiral Zektar, you and your surviving forces will return to Korvaxi space. You will report exactly what you witnessed here, and you will make sure that every member of your government understands one simple truth." Elena watched as Marcus slowly returned to normal human appearance, though the air around him continued to shimmer with residual quantum energy. "Innocent people are under my protection, not just human innocence. Any innocent beings threatened by those with superior force. This protection extends across the entire galaxy, and it is absolute." Elena realized that the galaxy had just changed forever. Marcus had demonstrated capabilities that redefined what was possible for any single being. But more importantly, he had demonstrated an absolute commitment to protection that challenged every predatory species in known space. Admiral Zektar's voice, much smaller now, came through the communication array. This is impossible. No single being can possess such power." "You're right, Admiral. No single being could. But a quantum-enhanced human, driven by the absolute refusal to let innocent people suffer? That's something the universe has never seen before." Elena stepped back into the recording field. "What you've witnessed today is the birth of a new galactic order. Not human dominance, not alien submission, but something unprecedented in galactic history. The absolute protection of the innocent, backed by power that can reshape reality itself." Marcus looked directly into the recording device one final time. "To every species listening, the choice is yours. Coexist peacefully, and you have nothing to fear from me. Threaten innocent life anywhere in the galaxy, and you will face consequences that no amount of military power can overcome." The transmission ended, and Elena found herself sitting in silence beside the most powerful individual in galactic history. Around them, Haven's Rest continued its peaceful existence. 40,000 people going about their lives completely unaware that they had just been saved by someone who had fundamentally altered the balance of power in the universe. "So," Elena said finally, "what happens now?" Marcus smiled, the first genuinely relaxed expression she'd seen from him. "Now we wait and see how many species decide that predation isn't worth the risk anymore." Elena looked up at the sky where the remnants of Admiral Zektar's fleet were already jumping to hyperspace, carrying word of what they'd witnessed back to the Korvaxi Empire. "Do you think it will work? The deterrent effect?" "It has to," Marcus replied, "because the alternative is me having to personally intervene every time someone threatens innocent people anywhere in the galaxy. And Elena, there are a lot of innocent people out there." As they watched the last Korvaxi ships disappear into hyperspace, Elena realized that she had just witnessed the moment when humanity stopped being just another species trying to survive in a hostile galaxy. They had become something new, the protectors of those who couldn't protect themselves. The Ghost Walker was gone, replaced by something that would reshape galactic civilization for millennia to come, and Elena finally understood why his name had been spoken in terror. It wasn't fear of what he might do to them. It was fear of what he represented. The end of their right to prey upon the innocent, enforced by power they couldn't comprehend or overcome. The galaxy would never be the same.